Hello, everyone, and welcome back to EmpowerHer podcast. This is our second episode, and we are so happy that you are joining us. And we hope you enjoyed the first episode and are excited to see what we have in store. You already know myself. Again, my name is London. I'm a host on Empower Network. And then we have the other London, creator of Empower Network. And we are happy to introduce our guest for today, as well as future episodes. You'll be seeing her face, Tommi.
Hi.
I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
So my name is Tommi. I'm a singer from the DMV area, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia. I've been singing all my life. You might have seen probably my viral videos of street performing and things like that. And yeah, I have my music, Virgo Lover, on all streaming platforms. And yeah.
We'd love to see it. So glad to have you here. So before we get started, let's just talk a little bit about this weekend. So was anyone else out there melting like I was?
Oh, I definitely was.
Yes, it was extremely hot.
Girl, I think this was like the first hot day, the legit hot day that we've had since last summer, and I wasn't ready for it.
I wasn't either, but you know what? I won't complain because with the way the weather has been, you don't know whether it's going to be warm or cold. So I was taking it.
I didn't even put up my winter clothes yet because it's like tomorrow might be 20 degrees, so you just don't know.
Exactly. I had no time to prepare.
None
like, and the lace was melting.
The drip, it was dripping. Not the drip.
Yeah, it was drip. There was a lot of drip going through them braids.
Yes, it got out there. It definitely got real. That's why I'm so happy that I went ahead and started my little lock journey once I found out I was expecting, because I was like, look, I'm not dealing with the hair anymore, and when it gets really hot, I need to be able to put this up in something nice where I'm nice and cool. So shout out to the lock journey.
Yes.
How has that been for you?
It's been really nice. I think I'm 2 or 3 months in, and I'm just so excited. It's something that I definitely me and my husband discussed like early on in our relationship. We've been together 8 years. Oh, we celebrated 8 years 2 days ago.
Oh,
yes. But it's something we discussed like early on, and I was always like, man, I want dreads so bad, but I want to enjoy doing different hairstyles and stuff now. But once you get me pregnant, the dreads is gonna come. So once we found out that I was pregnant almost 6 months ago, that's when I started that journey. Well, no, I didn't start it 6 months ago. I actually started it 3 months ago. So about 3 months into the pregnancy, I finally decided to go ahead and do it. And I'm just so excited. Like, I just love seeing women and their locks and their natural hair and just all the different styles you can do. And at the same time, I don't have to wake up every morning and do my hair. So that's the biggest plus for me.
Yeah, I'm jealous of you guys.
You see this. Okay.
Like, look, I don't gotta do nothing.
Okay. Wash and go for me.
I just wake up. I woke up like this, okay? But no, Tommi, I love the hair. I love the color. I love the on you.
Thank you.
The flip, the swoop.
It's gonna be the new standard. Like,
it has to be, because I just love it. Don't change it. Don't change it. Oh, okay. Well, enough chit chat. So we're gonna get started by kind of recapping what we discussed last episode.
Yes. So last week we introduced our new program on healing, which is called Heal, Reset, and Refocus. And we're really excited about this program because it focuses on trauma and how we can begin our healing journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So trauma like we uncovered in the last episode, it is an emotional response to something that you deem traumatic. So today we'd like to show you a quick video as Sarah Jake Roberts talks about getting to the root of trauma and her own experiences with it.
Beautiful. And I have that video right here for you all. So take a listen what she has to say.
When someone asks me my story, my initial thing is to like tell them, okay, I got pregnant when I was 13 years old, because I feel like people want to know, like, when did your life get off track? And I've been doing a lot of inner work to really come to a place where I understand, like, my story didn't begin where the trauma met me. My story didn't begin where the pain invaded my soul. And I think that when you've been marked by trauma, that you find yourself identifying with the trauma and not realizing you were a person before then. Do you think that you've been able to reconcile with why you left the house at 15? And this isn't from a place of judgment, because I'm going to share. So I'm in therapy, like, I think everybody's in therapy these days, especially after the pandemic.
Hello.
But my therapist takes me on this journey, and she was like, I want you to go back to when you were 13. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I want you to tell me, like, what would you say to that girl? And, who feels like she lost her innocence, who feels like something happened to her that she can never recover from. And I was like, I would tell her, you're going to be okay. You'll be fine. Everything's going to work out, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, but can you tell her that her innocence has not been lost? And I was like, no, because it has been. And she said, and until you can see that it hasn't been, you're going to always be unhealed. You're going to always be penalizing yourself for that moment. So I went on this whole journey and basically.
So we're going to stop it right there. And I just heard some great points that she mentioned.
And
take a second to just dive into and kind of dissect that for a moment.
Right.
So I think what stood out most to me, and I would really love to take the time to play the entire video, but you guys can definitely go look at that video on your own time. But just the fact that when she said her therapist asked her that question, can you go back to that little girl and tell her that her innocence wasn't taken? And she said, no, I can't tell her that because it was. This happened to me. I can't pretend that it did not happen. And I think it's just so important that we really understand that things happen and we get traumatized by them. And it doesn't help us to kind of sweep it under the rug or pretend it doesn't happen, pretend it doesn't affect us, because then we're not healing from it. And that's how we get into trauma affecting us in our childhood, because in our adulthood, because something that happened in our childhood, we didn't address it, we didn't fix it, we tried to pretend like it didn't happen, we just tried to cover it up. And I think it's just really important that she was able to identify it and say, this happened to me. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to lie to you about it. I'm not going to lie to myself about it. This happened to me, and I have to address it in order to move forward from it.
But then if you remember where the therapist also told her, until she's able to tell herself that her innocence has not been taken from her, she can't begin that healing journey. And that's the other thing that I say a lot when it comes to accepting what happened to you. It's like also understanding that because it happened to you, it doesn't mean that you're not innocent. You're still innocent. This thing happened to you. So your innocence wasn't robbed from you. You still are who you are. That's what she means, identifying who you were before the trauma. So yes, we definitely have to know, like she said, where the trauma stems from, understand how to identify that, but then also understand that you are not your trauma.
Yeah.
I agree. That's a good point. I'm glad that you said that, because you can't, I want to say, you can't let it follow you forever. You can't let it change who you can become.
And that part is important.
Yeah, you can't let it change who you are or who you can or want to become. you can't let it stop you. And I think that that's really what she was trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whew. So
Yeah.
that was a little deep, right?
Yeah, it just makes you think about, things that may have happened to you in your past, or
Mm-hmm.
things that maybe have stopped you from doing certain things, or stopped you from taking certain steps in your life. And it's like we can't, at that point we're letting the trauma win. And we
Right.
don't let trauma
Right.
around here. We don't let trauma win around here, okay?
Yeah.
We identify it, we heal from it, and we move on from it. We recover, we grow, we evolve from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part is actually acknowledging the fact that you know that your past trauma is affecting your day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to the healing process, I feel like a lot of people don't even know the steps when it comes to healing, or where to even start.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like, things like therapy now, I feel like that's like the first step. But I think the main first step is just acknowledging that something is happening,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
affecting. Yeah.
Definitely. And I love that you brought up therapy. And so did Sarah Jake Roberts in the video. And she was like, I'm seeing a therapist, which I think everybody is nowadays. And I just love that it's such a common thing now. It's
Yeah.
not oh, you're in therapy. Well, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? Like, I'm in
Mm-hmm.
therapy because it's healthy. Because
Yeah.
That
as
part.
human beings, we need it. Like, why are you not in therapy? Like, you telling me that you ain't got nothing you need to talk about?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you need to get off your chest? Like, I love that in this day and age, therapy is not something that's looked down upon or frowned upon. Like, oh, you need to be in a mental hospital or something. Like, no, ma'am. No, I'm bettering myself. I'm working on myself. I'm healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. So I'm just really happy that we're not all icky about, therapy anymore. Because
Right.
at one point it was like, oh, you in therapy? What,
Right.
you need a stray jacket?
And let me say, even especially in just Black culture,
It's,
it was looked at as like, what?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah.
So the fact that that shift is happening, I feel like people are becoming more aware, especially after the pandemic. I feel like once people started sitting with themselves and realizing that,
I
they
got
couldn't
some
sit with themselves.
issues. Like I
Yeah,
got some issues. I don't even want to sit by myself. This is a
exactly.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really good thing. It's
Yeah.
amazing how society can really, halt your whole process of trying to better yourself.
Yes.
Mhm.
Society definitely plays a big part in that, and it can kind of steer you away, or you feel embarrassed, or I don't want people talking about me. I don't want people to know I'm in therapy. But at this point, it's something you should be proud of, because it means
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that you're taking those necessary steps. You're
Yeah.
Yeah.
not holding it in, and then it comes out in your relationships, it comes out on your job, and you're wondering, why am I losing friends? Why can't I make friends? Why am I scared to do this? Why am I scared to do that? Like, I think it's a big step that we should applaud people
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for going ahead and taking that step and going to therapy.
Yeah.
Because like ultimately you're developing emotional intelligence and self-awareness.
Yes, that part, self-awareness.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Ladies touched on a lot of different things. A lot of different things. So just want to bring it back real quick and just slightly touch on now the different types of trauma. Because remember, we talked about it in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just going to give you some examples of the different variations of trauma and then how it affects us or makes sure for us in our lives. So we have acute trauma, which is a one-time event. And I'm sorry, I keep looking away because my dog keeps coming over here bothering me. I'm trying to figure out why she's not in the back. But acute trauma is a one-time event. So this could be something as simple as falling off your bike and just imagine like you're just learning how to ride your bike and then you fall off and now you're probably afraid to get on the bike again. And then while I was like rehearsing earlier, my son gave me an example. He was like, Ma, I remember when I was doing backflips, and I thought he was just going to give me one of his long stories again. So I'm like, what this got to do with trauma? He was like, because I'm trying to tell you, one time I was doing backflips, and when I did a backflip, I hurt my neck. And after I did that, I didn't want to do backflips anymore. But what I ended up doing was trying to figure out how I could do the backflip and actually maneuver where I'm not leaning on my neck. So I said, oh, okay, so you worked through it. He was like, yeah, so now I know how to do backflips, so no problem.
Yes,
like, okay.
I love it.
Oh,
I love it.
Yes, right. And then we have chronic trauma, which is repeated and prolonged experiences. So that could be like child abuse, domestic violence, emotional and physical abuse. So, that list can go on. And then we have complex trauma, which is exposure to multiple traumatic events from an early age. So this is most often seen in the parental home. So it's like seeing your parents fight, whether it's like verbally or physically. And then we can talk about how we see it in our own neighborhoods. So that's gun violence, police brutality. I mean, please, we could keep going and talking about that one. So complex trauma is obviously very complex for a reason. And then we have historical trauma, aka generational trauma. And so that's collective trauma experienced by a group across generations. So that can be seen in slavery or just like a breakdown in a family that starts up here and then it just trickles down and trickles down. And remember last week, we touched on how the mother was affected and how that affects the kids, or certain things and sayings that we pass down. And I think, Linda, you said a few of them last week.
Yeah, I know we touched on it kind of came to my mind when you were telling him, just kind of expressing yourself about your shyness and how sometimes you're a little nervous about speaking, and it just popped in my head. Like that's an example of generational trauma. Like when our parents or grandparents used to say, you need to be seen and not heard, or you can only speak when spoken to, those little things you don't really think off the top of your head. Oh, like that's not traumatic. Like, because we have to look at it from another perspective. You are a child. You're supposed to stay in a child's place. You shouldn't just be butting in on a grown folks conversation. But at the same time, if we're, having a conversation, I would like to hear your opinion. Like you are a child, but that doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion. It doesn't mean that you don't have thoughts. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't speak up for yourself. So those little things we just want to be mindful of, and we don't realize that those could be, traumatic. And then now the child thinks, even as an adult, when I walk into a room, if no one says nothing to me, I better not say nothing. I should be seen and not heard. Only speak when someone speaks to me. Like as an adult, that's not how you behave. So it's like a two-sided thing. And that can like show up in our relationships when we meet someone for the first time and we're kind of, getting to know them. And then it's this, I don't want to text first, or he needs to text me first, or I'm only going to speak to him if he says something to me, And like that's a combination of being a woman or being shy or whatever. But it can also trace back to those things that our parents told us, that, you don't need to talk unless somebody says something to you, or don't be seen and don't be heard. And
that was the one.
Yeah, right. And then I think I'll just go into maybe a few more examples that I can think of, especially with generational trauma and complex trauma. I can think of two off the top of my head. I know, Tommi, you mentioned just a second ago about therapy in the Black culture and in society. That is a piece of generational trauma, because how we're saying today, like it's so wow, how we're saying today that it's it's accepted more, but back then it was like, you don't need to be in therapy. If you're in therapy, something's wrong with you. If you're in therapy, there's an issue, it's embarrassing. You shouldn't really be telling people you're in therapy. Why are you going to therapy? So those societal things, or those things in your generation, that can affect you. And now that you're having issues and you need to see a therapist, you're scared. You don't want to, you're embarrassed. So you're holding in all these things. You're not healing simply because of what society might think or what your grandparents told you about what it looks like when someone goes to therapy. Yeah, and then I don't want to talk too much, but last thing about the complex trauma, I can think about my parents fighting. You know, when I was young, my parents would go at it. They're divorced now, both happily married now, but back then, you know, it was a lot of fighting going on. And me and my siblings and we would be cowering in fear in the corner somewhere, like, oh my God, what's going on? And I can remember even in my teenage years or as a young adult, whenever I would hear someone arguing, I would get that same feeling like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Like somebody's upset. I can just feel the vibrations in the air. I want to go into a corner and hide. I want to cry and wait till it's over and not come out until it gets quiet again. And then in my own relationship now, like I told myself that would never be me. Like I would never be going back and forth with my spouse and yelling off the top of our lungs. And lo and behold, we into it. So like it really followed me. And now that I have a little one on the way, I'm just like, that can't be us. Like I do not want to put my little girl or, you know, in the future, other children through that. I don't want them cowering in fear in the room, listening to mommy and daddy going off. Like, that stuff really haunts you and follows you.
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about that. Like just the fact of like how it affects you in a way where you're seeing somebody else arguing, and that's just making you like, it's just reminding you of where you came from in a sense. So subconsciously bothering you.
Right. Absolutely.
I'll say that from my experiences as a young kid, you know, my parents were fighting since before I was born. So leading up to when I was about 5, 6 years old, my parents brought over a lot of our family members from Sierra Leone to here. So we're all living in this big house. I was the only child at the time. And now I have brothers and sisters. I have uncles and aunties, and we're all living together. And one experience I remember was, you know, my sister kind of being jealous and telling me, like, you're not the princess of this house. I'm going to make your life a living hell. And she did. And anytime she would do something to me, she would immediately say, if you say anything, you're going to get it, type of thing. So that taught me how to really refrain from talking at all. So anytime, you know, I would go through something that was traumatic, I'm holding it all in. Anytime arguments in the home, I'm holding it all in. And so what's happening when you do that is, I learned from a holistic doctor about this, that it can also cause diseases. Right? There's a lot of chemicals that, you know, come into your body. I don't know all the terminologies, but it can lead to stress. It can lead to poor eating habits. It can lead to depression. And when that's starting from a childhood age, now I'm looking at myself, I'm like, dang, so maybe this autoimmune disease. So it's just like, it's really important to like tackle these things at a young age. I wish that I had understood therapy at that time, or had wanted to go, or someone influenced me to go at that time, because I feel
the thing you're going now.
Yes.
That's a good thing you're getting that necessary help now. And it's a good thing that you're correcting those things now, because then that's not to say that there was any issues or you were wrong for not going then. You just, maybe your mind wasn't ready to receive what it's receiving right now.
Right.
So you're doing things right on time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's clap for the growth.
Yes. Okay.
Sometimes I don't really give myself enough credit, because like there are moments where I'm just, you know, you have the days where you feel, you know, elevated and you feel good about yourself, and then you have the other days where you crumble, and it's just like sometimes we can beat ourselves up about it. But I always tell myself I need to give myself grace, and I need to give myself more credit. So yeah.
I love that you spoke about just giving yourself credit, because we do not give ourselves
We
enough.
don't.
Oh, I don't
And
know.
we've been through some things, y'all. We done been through some things. I don't know about y'all, but we done been through some
Through some
things.
things.
Okay.
And we are still here. We're still moving. We're not letting it own us. And we're at a point where we are tackling it. We're identifying with it. We are healing from it. And we are moving forward. And I love that for
Yes.
us.
Yes.
I love that for us. Well, we have unpacked a lot so far. So I would like for us to take a quick break and kind of digest. And we have a little video that we're going to show for you. But I'm going to ask my, I'm going to ask because I see that we have 3 minutes left of our recording. So I think that we're going to play this little video and then we're going to come back and kind of wrap up there. Is that okay with you ladies?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy this quick video and we will be back with you.
After a long day, you're going to want to unwind. And at Self-Discovery, we have just the right candle for you. A healthier you starts with a mind that is grounded. Shine light into your life with our handmade candles. Premium quality of candles for every occasion. Come by our store and check us out at indiscoveringme.com. Hope to see you there.
We love to see it. Can you give them that that link one more time, London?
Yes, it is indiscoveringme.com. And if you go to the very top, you will see where it says view our candle collection and you can click there.
Yes, I love it. It was that marble one for me. I was like, ooh,
Yes.
marble. I love me some marble. Okay, well, ladies, I think it's about time for us to wrap up. But before we go, we wanted to discuss some of the ways that trauma shows up in our adulthood and just kind of give you some self-reflection questions that you can kind of take to, just reflect on.
All right. So that was a lot. We unpacked a lot. We talked about a lot. We covered a lot. So now here's some questions that we can ask ourselves, especially when we're faced with a traumatic experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one question I like to ask myself often is, what lesson have I learned, or what lesson did I learn from the situation? And how has this situation caused me pain? And the reason why I like that question is because it always helps me to kind of just be present in that moment and then kind of figure out, am I reacting from, a traumatic space or from this present moment?
Yeah.
And then, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this situation? And then what feels familiar in each outcome that maybe has possibly broken my spirit? And then in what ways has it broken my spirit, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, how is this situation different from the last situation that you were in? So until we are able to understand where the pain or where the root cause of whatever it is that we've gone through, until we're able to identify where that is coming from, we're not able to find a solution to heal it. So how can we heal a wound that we can't see?
Right.
So do y'all remember the liquid Band-Aids?
Yes.
So
She like,
was that before your time? Am I showing my age?
girl, we the same age, so
No. So you gotta remember liquid Band-Aid.
Okay.
So liquid band-aids, they used to be my absolute favorite. And I would like, cause I don't like the band-aids on me because it would just be too hard to rip it off or whatever. So I have a pump, put it that way. So I'll put the liquid band-aid over it. But my little behind would keep putting the liquid band-aid over the liquid band-aid over the liquid band-aid over the liquid band-aid, right? So I got all these freaking layers of fake skin over the wound that never got a chance to heal because I'm just covering it up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the same situation. And the crazy part is, I remember one time I kept doing it, right? And I ended up getting an infection.
Oh
A
no.
cut. So it sounds super nasty, which it was. And I had to run it under the water. And I was too afraid to run it underwater because then that means I got to take the fake skin off. And then I got to let the water rinse off all that gook and that stuff. That shit hurt. Excuse my language, but that hurt. So now I gotta get to the pain, like to the root of the pain in order to heal it, because it wasn't healing. It was just sitting there, open wound with all this fake skin on top of it. And that's kind of how you think about, life with trauma and stuff like that, going through different situations and just masking it instead of dealing with it. So you always go back to those 3 questions, just to kind of help yourself be present and then really identify what it is that you're going through. And we're definitely going to leave you with those questions, but another way to identify if you even need healing, because some people go around not even knowing that they need healing. And I remember I took child psychology. That was like one of the most interesting courses I've ever taken in my life. And she walked around the class, and I'll never forget that class. But she said, sometimes, we'll go through a situation and we don't even know that we're the ones that's broken. So we keep finding ourselves in these same situations, and I'll call it like meeting the same soul in different bodies, or finding yourself in the same repetitive cycle. And you're just like, well, why do I keep going through this? What's going on? Why? And you're thinking there's something wrong with everybody else. And so again, you're masking the situation and jumping from situation to situation, not realizing that it's you. It starts with you.
Right.
And then that's where we go back to them questions where it's like, okay, well, what am I learning from this? What can I identify this? Why does this feel so comfortable? So that's like, I think when you realize, or when you find yourself in a repetitive cycle, there's something that needs to be healed there. So that's when okay, I need to figure this out. And that's when you want to take that step back, because 9 times out of 10, there's something that you need to heal from. And then you have to start asking yourself the right questions in order to get to the root of it. Because in order to move forward from whatever it is for you, you have to first identify the root of it. And that's why our program was set up the way it is. And I really like the program because we talk about what trauma is. We talk about how to get through trauma. We have different, activities to help you focus and just reprogram your mind and create those mindset shifts that you need in order to just prepare yourself to move forward, especially after healing, right? So
I like how you talked about that, how you tied in that whole Band-Aid thing. It's painful. And I will never sit and tell someone, oh, you have trauma, well, let's tackle this, it'll be a breeze. No, it's going to be painful. For one, if you have trauma that you have not dealt with, you're literally digging into those old wounds. You're reopening things that your mind might have shut down as a defense mechanism. You don't even remember it. And you remember one thing, and then it's like, oh, and this happened too. And then too, like, ooh, and then you realize I done been through a lot. Then you realize I'm still here. I'm stronger than I thought I was. I'm stronger than y'all thought I was.
That part.
Okay. So I just really like how you use that example of a Band-Aid, because it's literally ripping the Band-Aid off. You tried to cover it up. It didn't work. Rip it off, deal with it, and then move forward.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. We talked about a lot. We definitely talked about a lot. We talked a lot about trauma. We talked a lot about healing, and I'm really interested in our next episode, because I know we're going to talk more about healing and how to, dive into different avenues of healing. So that's going to be interesting, right, ladies?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And make sure that you check out that program, Heal, Reset, and Refocus, which is available now. It's really going to dive into all these things that we're kind of just touching on the surface, and it'll give you an opportunity to really, on your own time, dive into it, digest it, relate, express all of those things that you really need to do to get to that healing process.
Yes, and you can also check us out on IG. So our name there is self_discovery19. And ladies, we have a special community just for us, which is community.indiscoveringme.com. You can also check us out on a link because I have all of our links up there as well. And you can watch our YouTube, EmpowerHer Podcast, L&L Incorporated, or INC for short. So this was like really a great week, a great topic. I've really enjoyed talking with you ladies.
Yes, me too. I think we really got into a lot, and it's nice to hear some personal experiences, and I'm just really excited about what's to come. And when you think about trauma, you can get kind of nervous, like, oh, is this about to be so dark and depressing? But when you really think about the
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
A little bit. Let's see. I could pull it again. All right, guys. So I think we just lost someone. London, we lost you a little bit, but it's okay because we were wrapping up anyway. So again, check us out on Instagram. It is self_discovery19. And then also on there, you'll be able to find a link to all of our different platforms. So we look forward to talking to you all next week. Tommi, thank you so much for joining us this week, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you guys so much for having me. You guys can also follow my Instagram at tommi.music. And I just started talking about my wellness journey as well. So follow me there.
Here goes London. Yes, she's there. She goes out.
Girl, this technology stuff is I'm just looking like I'm just rapping, and then the screen just goes black. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. What's going on here? But I'm back.
So Tommi was just giving out her Instagram so we could go ahead and follow her, and you definitely want to follow her. Her music is absolutely amazing.
Oh yes. Dope. My dope best friend. Yes. Go stream that. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, London, you have anything to say before we head up out of here, girlfriend?
I think I am good. I think we done talked enough. We done talked ladies' heads off. I think it's about time for us to sign off. This was great. So until next time, we will see you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.